Hello, my name is Gemma Zoe Smith and my company is the Education Hotel. We are a bespoke tuition agency which helps children all over the world to succeed, to enter top schools, to improve their confidence, to get great grades and to love learning. I hope you enjoy the following video from the Education Hotel.
Going to be, guys, it's going to be probably a 30 or 40-minute talk this evening. I will try and rush through all the bits because I know that we've got family, we've got things to do. As I said, it is going to be recorded. Those recordings are going to be sent out. So if you can't make it for the whole time, that's absolutely fine. Do not worry. You'll get the information, you'll have it sent through by us. But obviously, if you can stay, it would be great to have you here. So as more and more of you come in, I'm going to share our screen so that I can see, you can see what I'm doing. Let's pop that up. There we are. So let's do that. And then let's put this on present. There we are. Perfect. So hopefully everybody should be able to see my screen. And in case you don't know who I am, my name is Gemma Zoe Smith. I am the director here at the Education Hotel. We are a tuition agency. We support students age 6 all the way up to age 18 to achieve academic success. And within that, 11 plus features fairly heavily with the work that we do. For me, myself, I'm a tutor. I've been a tutor for 10 years. I'm a qualified teacher and I hold 3 degrees from Oxford University, and I qualified as a teacher a couple of years ago, but I decided that tuition was really where I feel like I can make the most difference. Lots of you will probably have seen me popping up. I speak at quite a lot of Facebook groups. I speak in a lot of lives on Facebook. So you may have seen me speak before. However, most of this information is new, is kind of worth refreshing yourself on. And for many of you, because you will be at the start of your 11 plus journey, this information will be relevant to you now. And then there'll be other lives that will be important for you a little bit later. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to press escape there so that I can pop that there. Brilliant. And hopefully we should be able to start. Just going to make sure it's definitely is recording, because otherwise someone will say, I didn't get the recording. And I want to make sure that they did. Brilliant. Okay. Perfect. So we should all be good to ready to roll. All right. Let's reset that slide up and we'll be good to go. There it is. Okay. Share. Perfect. Okay, so welcome to this talk. It should last probably about 35 minutes, maybe a little bit under. I'm going to try and keep it fairly concise. Any of you who have seen me speak before will know that I have a tendency to ramble, a tendency to try and throw all this information at you. And that's why I always record the sessions that I do, because I think it's useful to go back and to be able to go back through. So without further ado, I am going to pop that on there and we can begin. So we should be covering on today's this evening's event what the 11 plus is, what a catchment area is, what the course subjects are, who can take the 11 plus, why there's lots of different versions, because that often confuses people, whether you need a tutor, when you should start preparing, and at which ages you should cover certain things, how to encourage your child without putting pressure, and what the pass kind of rate is. Whew. Now, it's quite a lot of stuff. So I am going to run through it, and I am going to hopefully explain a little bit about how the Education Hotel helps as well. As I mentioned, I am the director here at the Education Hotel. We do obviously provide 11+ services. I will mention them from time to time in the presentation, just so that you are aware before you sit through it. So first of all, what is the 11+? Well, the 11+ to me is something that I sat the 11+. I'm actually sitting very near the school that I went to, which was Chancellor County High School for Girls. It's a selective grammar school. I was the first person in my family and the only person in my family so far to go to grammar school. My parents had no idea. They had gone to local state school and left school at 14 and 16. They are not academic in the traditional sense. So for them, grammar was completely unknown. And yet they sought out a tutor, and they put me in tuition, a group tuition program. And I managed to go to CCHS, which was the Chancellor County High School. And from there, I went on to do my undergrad at Oxford. I stayed on, did my master's, and then I went back a couple of years ago to train as a teacher. So for me, grammar school really did great things for me. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I made some amazing friends there, and I really loved the academic challenge of it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it held my attention. There were times, obviously, when school, maybe teachers didn't see the potential there, or where I didn't feel like I was stretched in certain subjects. But I think you get that in every school. And on the whole, I really loved grammar school. So I now support students going into grammar school, and the Education Hotel over the last year has supported about 100. We do that about each year. I support more students. You may have seen me in private and grammar school. It's a Facebook group, and then the 11+ journey is another Facebook group. I often live in those, and so that is stuff that you may have seen me go live in, and if you have, hello again, and thank you for joining me as well. I myself, I've tutored for probably about 10 years, I reckon, and I've done 11+ through all of that. So what is the 11+? And I really am starting from basics this evening, because I know that there will be some of you watching this who are very new to the 11+ process. So the 11+, when we talk about it, it is an exam. It is an exam for entrance to grammar school. It takes place just at the start of year 6. So you need to start thinking about it before that point. So typically we're looking at September. Occasionally it gets pushed to October. It did during COVID years. It is for the start of year 6 pupils, but it tests slightly beyond the level that they've been taught at school. Now, we talk mostly when we talk about 11+ for grammar schools, but I will mention the other 11+, which is for independent schools. They actually follow a similar syllabus, but they test in different ways. So I've got a map over here, and that map highlights the counties, the areas that grammar schools are. They are not in every county in the UK. You will see on groups lots of people asking for grammar schools near where they live. The fact of it is that there are areas where grammar schools do not exist. So for example, I live now in Oxfordshire, and there is no grammar school system there. The nearest for us would be Reading or Beaconsfield. So there is that obviously it depends on where you live. And for many people, they will relocate as well for grammar schools. But that is the first thing. The first thing is the idea of it's not everywhere. It's, as I said, it's an exam, an academic exam that is used to select for students. So it is a selection made on academic ability. And typically you will find that the exams that are tested are English, math, verbal and non-verbal. Not all of them are tested in all schools. So you might only, for example, take a math and an English, or you might take an English and a verbal. Depends on the schools that you are applying for. I've put it in big capitals here. It is not prepared for at state school. A state school's job is to teach the curriculum. The curriculum is not related to the 11+ exam. As you can see, there are many, many areas where there are no grammar schools, and there are many other schools that students will go to within those areas where there are grammar schools. So school's job is to teach the curriculum, the national curriculum. It may overlap with parts of the 11+, but it does not mean that they are teaching for the 11+. For example, schools do not teach verbal or non-verbal reasoning at all. So you are looking at having to do that preparation elsewhere. That preparation could be that you're doing it at home. It could be that you're doing it with tutors. It could be a mix of both. You may have your child in a prep school, and some prep schools will prepare for 11+, but it is very important to note that the 11+ process that they are often preparing for is what we call the independent 11+ process, not the grammar exams. Now, they do overlap. They overlap a lot. So if your child is in a prep school, they're in a private school at the moment, they will have a certain amount of preparation for 11+. You get a lot of talk about catchment areas. They are areas in which you should live. Catchment is often a determining factor for certain schools. So what they will do is they will academically test, and then they will also look at the area where a child lives. So catchment, when we talk about a catchment policy, we are talking about a policy that a school has that means that you have to live a certain distance away from that school. And often that means that you may take the 11+, but if you do not live within that catchment, you're highly unlikely to get a place. So for most highly selective schools, you've got a catchment policy. There are schools without catchment policies. For example, QE, Queen Elizabeth's in Barnet, they don't have a catchment policy. They typically therefore see a lot more applications because people are applying to it from all over the place. It is up to the individual school as to their catchment policy. Please phone them, ask them, clarify. Each time I come round to do these talks, each time I come around to have year 5 students in, I often get these questions from parents. So for example, can I rent a house and be in catchment? How long do I have to have lived in catchment? Can I move into the catchment after my child has taken the exam? It is down to the individual school or local authority. So please get hold of the school, because although at the Education Hotel, we've got a team of tutors who deal with the 11+ and a team that deal with the admissions side, we do not know every single school. We will always say, if you call us up and you ask us this question, we will always say to go back to the school. They change every year for certain schools. It's always worth getting hold of the school. Some schools have what's called a sibling policy. A sibling policy means that if you already have a child in the school, then often the second child has an easier time. So they still take the 11+, but maybe they have to score a slightly lower score. And some schools are what we call super selective. Those super selective schools, typically you're looking at around a 95% score. They are highly academic, and they are usually highly oversubscribed. And that is why we call them super selective. The other word that sometimes you hear me mention, other tutors maybe mention, is second round tests. So something like Henrietta Barnet is a school that has a second round test. They do a first round, which is their standard multiple choice kind of questions, and then they do a second round, which is set by the school. And that is usually a super selective school. Because of the fact they have so many people applying at the start, they make a first selection and then they make a second selection. So that is what we mean when we talk about second round tests. A lot of this is, I put it on slides so that you can see it, but if I just move myself down there, but if we look at the main types of boards, again, words that you will start to see as you are becoming part of this 11+ process, you will hear CEM, you'll hear CSSE, you'll hear GL and SET, and all of those are different boards of exam. Now, the information that your child will study will be the same for 11 plus. So if they're looking at math, for example, the math that is in CEM, GL, CSSE, SET, at least at the foundational level, which if you're in year 4, we're looking foundational level, it will be the same. But the style of question is different. So the styling, the way that they ask, the types of questions that they ask, that's where it changes. So I've got a load of information here for you to have a look at, to find out what school, what your school, the school that you're looking at, what their board exam is. On every website, there's an admissions part, and on the admissions tab, it will tell you whether it is CEM, SET, GL, or CSSE. Do, again, a little warning for you, do make sure that you have maybe drop the school an email and ask to be informed if there is any change, because they do change boards, and often they don't necessarily communicate it until it's quite late. So certain schools have changed over from GL to CEM and parents haven't necessarily known. So if you are right at the start, you know which schools you're looking for, email those schools and ask to be put on their mailing list. Tell them that you're making that application and ask to be updated. They will update you if there is a change. It's why it's worth being on those boards. But you can see here from this information that different papers for different boards. So for example, we can see that CEM, they've got an English verbal reasoning paper and a math non-verbal reasoning paper. Whereas if you do a GL, then you're doing all 4 subjects, and it's the school that chooses the paper. So once you know the school, you'll also know the syllabus or the board, which is the acronyms that I've just mentioned. So first of all, you need to look for the school and look at the catchment and look at the sibling policy and make sure that you live in the right area. And then you need to work out what are the boards. And if you know what the boards are, you know what exams you're looking at. So there is a bit of a step-by-step process if you're just starting out with this. As I said, different versions, different boards here. GL mostly is what we call a standard format. A standard format is where you write your answers down. It could also be multiple choice, so it's a mix for GL. CEM is also a combination, but for certain others, and dependent on where again you're sitting, you might just have a multiple choice. So for example, if you do a CEM test and you do it for certain regions, then you will only get a multiple choice. If you do GL, you'll typically get a mix. And when I say standard format versus multiple choice is where there is an A, B, C, D, E, and your child will have to pick one of them, and they'll have to mark their answer on a sheet. Whereas a standard format means that they have to work out their answers, show they're working, and then write. For English, it's the same. Multiple choice would be A, B, C, D, E. They're going to pick. Whereas for a standard format, they will be asked to write a sentence. So once you know, then you can find out whether it's standard format or multiple choice. So several steps, as I said. The one thing I haven't mentioned to this point is independent schools. 11 plus is the major entrance point for grammar. It's also for certain independent schools. Independent schools have a different board, and that is called ISEB. And often we hear about ISEB pretest. It's an online program that is used often by boys, but it's starting to be more mixed now, and they pre-select their students. So these are students who, if you take the ISEB pretest, then you'll be in a school that goes up to age 13. You'll take that in your year 6, and then you'll usually go on and take something called the common entrance in year 13, when you are 13, sorry, so year 8. Again, it's a little bit on its own, but the foundational material, so if you're thinking I might go for grammar and independent, the foundational material is the same. Although the formats of the exams change, for you guys, because you are thinking, first of all, looking at year 4, all that foundational stuff is all the same. So the stuff to focus on, whether it's grammar, whether it's independent, whether it's CEM, GL, CSSE or SET, always has the same foundation. Some independent schools set their own 11+, but it's a similar version. So this foundational skill, I always say to my students, 11+ is like a pyramid. You need to make those strong foundations at the bottom, and then we can start to look at questions, and then we can start to look at specific papers and specific styles. If you don't have that foundation, our pyramid's just going to flop. And that's why we think it's important to start the process and to start building that foundation. So, do you need a tutor? No. And lots of people get shocked when I say this, but you do not need a tutor. I'm aware that I run a tuition agency, but I also know many people who do the 11+ without any tuition, or some people do tuition right at the end. They'll come to us for maybe 10 sessions. Some will do it all the way through, but you do not need a tutor. What you do need is a plan of action. And that is quite hard to do for many parents. If you work, if you're looking after the house, if you've got childcare, if you are doing lots of things, looking after elderly relatives, trying to structure the 11+ process, that's where it can be tricky. And it's something that, because they don't cover it at school, you can't rely on the school to be there to do it. It's something that there's lots and lots of material on. So usually I'm doing these lives in front of a whole load of bookcases, and they are full of 11+ material. So there are so many books, there are so many apps, there are so many websites out there, that to be able to get through the material and work out what you're going to do, you need a plan of action. Different types of tuition and different types of tuition that we offer here at the Education Hotel. We do one-to-one tuition. One-to-one has always been the way that we work. We do group. So group tuition, our groups are typically 8 maximum is our maximum group size. We find it a lot easier to see that there are 8 students and to get individual responses from each of those. We do booster courses. So those booster courses run during the holidays, usually 1 week. We've just finished summer. So we've just done 2 lots of 3-week booster courses and 6, I think, 6 or 7 1-week booster courses. So we do them quite a bit. Lots of people talk about online versus face-to-face. It is a personal preference. And again, people get shocked when I say this, because most of my tutors are online, but it's ultimately up to you. There are advantages to having online. It means you've got a greater pool of tutors. It means that you can access somebody who may not be able to travel or who may choose not to travel to you. But there are advantages to face-to-face too. And we do offer face-to-face occasionally, depending on area. And our face-to-face tutors, often they're chosen because parents want someone to be alongside their child. They want that face-to-face contact. It's entirely up to a parent's choice. It's about finding out the options. And I will say throughout this program and throughout this presentation, if you want to find out more, please do reach out to us. That's what we'd always say. So online versus face-to-face, one-to-one versus group. If you want to talk about the pros and cons for both, then do get hold of us. We are running, obviously, for this year, a year 4 full year group program. So we've already taken 2 spaces on that, and so we've got 6 left, and that is our 11+ success program. I will talk a little bit later about it so that you can know a little bit more, but it is a group program. Whilst we are here at the tutor stage, I just want to tell you about the importance of reviews. Obviously, it's hard to find reviews, and I know this as a tuition agency owner. My students will finish and I will say, oh, it's great, we've got this result, can you give us a review? And in the 11+ world, lots and lots of parents are a little bit wary about reviews, and that's because they don't necessarily want everyone to know that they've had a tutor. So it does mean that you'd get less reviews than you would if you was buying a sofa, for example. However, it is useful to see reviews. You can see all of ours on Trustpilot. We're very open about it. We allow our students to review. We're open for reviews. And the other thing is obviously sometimes people talk about individual versus agency. Obviously, I run an agency. The advantage of the agency is obviously there's additional support. So often when people review us, it's not just about the tuition they receive, it's about the additional support that they receive as well. Whilst I'm here, again, and for those who are just starting out, you're just starting out 11 plus, there is a little bit of a warning. The 11 plus market is big and is unregulated. So you do get a number of tutors who are maybe not experienced, who maybe have maybe just taken their child through it, and now think that they would like to offer support to others, or tutors who maybe don't know the intricacies of the different syllabuses. And so I would always say, please do speak to them. Don't just go on the basis of a review, because lots of people get their friends to review, and lots of people are recommended on Telegram groups or WhatsApp groups, and we find that we get a lot of parents who have been with those tutors, who have found struggles with those tutors. Everyone says, finding a tutor, it's about finding the fit, and just because it worked for a friend, it may not work for you. So do make sure you speak to them, that you've looked at any reviews, that you have had a full conversation, you understand that the way that they work. At the Education Hotel, we're not the best fit for everybody. We think that we offer really useful tuition, but we know we're not for everyone. And we would always say, please have a conversation with us. And likewise, I'd expect most tutors to do that as well. So don't feel pressured into taking tuition. Don't feel pressured into picking a particular tutor because they have X amounts of recommendations from friends of yours or from people online. Just speak with them, ask them your questions, and make sure that you've had that conversation. Is worth just having those conversations. The other thing I suppose that we're lucky to do is we have several partnerships that we run. So we work in partner with a company which I also head, which is called Top School and Uni, and that does a advisory service. So for people who are looking for what school is right for them, then we do that kind of partnership version. So we do a number of things surrounding tuition, but yeah, for tuition, you don't need it. You might want it. Do your research, make sure that you're happy in terms of getting the right fit. And then once you have a tutor, remember it's a group thing, it's a team. It's you, your student, and your tutor working together. And that needs to be a strong partnership. So you need to work with them, and you need to make sure that you are communicating between them as well. Not just kind of they're going to tuition, you don't know what's going on, or indeed you're expecting the tutor to do everything, because as a tutor I typically only see students maybe twice a week, and I can't do everything. So do make sure that partnership is you, your student, and the tutor if you're going to use one. Okay, there may be occasionally some year 3 parents watching this. If you are, there are some suggestions here as to how you can start to get your child round to 11 plus. We're looking at foundations, we're looking at love of learning, we're looking at reading, spelling, but keep it light. When we're looking at year 4, we're looking at foundation work. So do make sure that if you need a checklist of what to cover, then get hold of me. I will be able to give it to you. Start to consider vocab. We start to focus on math. We start to focus on English at this point. And this is where we start to do that foundation work that I've talked about. that foundation, that bottom of the pyramid, that really important stuff, not past papers, not specific stuff, foundation work. Don't worry about what sits at the top, the CEM, GL, CSSE, all of that stuff. Work on the foundation. So as I've mentioned, we run this thing called the 11 Plus Success Program. The 11 Plus Success Program starts late September. It is for year 4 child. So if you are sitting here, you're thinking, yep, okay, I've got the information. I know I need to go away. I know I need to look at the school, catchment, sibling policy. Then I need to look at making sure I'm on their mailing list and checking out the CSSE, CM, what kind of exam it is. But I'm really worried because I don't think I've personally got the time to prepare my child. Or you're thinking, what if I don't get it right? And what if I think we've covered everything, we haven't necessarily covered it? Or you're thinking, oh my God, there's loads of it to do, or you've even tried to teach your child and you can see it's not working. We get a lot of children whose parents are teachers, but it just doesn't work when you teach your own child. I remember this from when I was 10 years old and working with my mother. We used to do workbooks. We used to do some of the same books that we use in 11 Plus Success. There are upgraded versions, updated versions now, but we still use them. And I remember rebelling a lot against my mother. And I know she had my best interest at heart, but I really did not want to sit down and do spellings. And so it was really hard between us. And that is why we went for a tutor in the end. So in terms of what's involved in the 11 Plus Success Program, there's quite a lot. And the reason for this is, just like I said, we don't just do tuition at the Education Hotel. We do all the stuff that goes round it. And I wanted to create a program that my parents would have wanted to use. And that isn't just tuition. I don't want somebody just to send their child off to tuition and not know what's happening. So we've got this initial assessment, so you know where your child is going in at. We've obviously got the tuition, it's live, it's got eight students maximum, and you've got recordings of that after the sessions as well. We've got homework. That homework is used to practice those skills, and also to get your child used to learning. We've got feedback though as well. Feedback from the tutors to discuss your child's progress. Termly parent meetings from me, talking about strategy. How are we going to make sure that your child can move to the next level? How can we make sure that they are really going to be able to go away and practice ratio, for example, or their fractional knowledge? What can we do where you can ask questions about the 11 plus and I can answer them for you? As I said, I've been doing this 10 years. I've been doing this on some of the biggest Facebook groups, private and grammar school group and the 11 plus journey. I've been adminning those for the last couple of years. I've had most questions thrown at me. We give you workbook recommendations because so many people get hold of me and say, what do I do with workbooks? So we give you a list of recommendations for each stage of your child's journey. There's additional optional add-ons. So if the first ones, they've got creative writing. If you're doing independent schools, you might need a creative writing, or second stages. We've got multiplication skills as well. Options to add one-to-one, and priority booking on our holiday courses. If you are interested in this program, please do reach out. As I said, it's so important to make sure it's the right fit. And that's why after this, what I will be doing is I will be sending the recording and I will be sending a booking link so that you can book straight into my calendar and you can find out more. So if you are looking at this thinking, oh, maybe it's something I'm interested in, give me a call. If you're not sure about it, you've got questions about it, please do call me. All right, so we're coming to the end. If you are here and you're at the end of year 4 and start of year 5, I'm going to be doing a whole new presentation for you. So please do keep an eye out, because you guys will be moving up. As I said, this one here is for introduction. The last couple of things that we said that we would cover. So how to encourage your child. Don't compare your preparation with anyone else. Obviously have a strategy, And be prepared to flex that strategy, because your child will not just do this progress. There'll be dips. It will look like a roller coaster, and it will feel like a roller coaster sometimes. But don't compare your preparation with someone else's. Manage your stress in front of your child. If something changes, communicate clearly. Do please, as I said at the start of this, do make sure that you are checking with the school, with the local authority, not with just other people in the same boat as you. So right at the start, the importance for this first step, if you're joining me for the first possible step, you're thinking about 11 plus, please do those initial steps. Target the schools, get hold of the schools, look at their processes, look at their policies for the moment, and make sure that you're on their mailing list. So do rely on those and not on just other people. Be aware, there's few official tests, lots of revision material written by tutors, including us. And listen to your child. You know, as I said, group programs like the ones that we've talked about, they're not for everybody. I have students who come to me one-to-one because they're shy. And if I put them in a group, they wouldn't be the right fit. They might be in a term, they might be more confident, and they might be able to make sure that they are sticking their hand up in lessons. But, you know, if you know your child's a little bit reticent, talk to us for a start. You know, have that conversation with us, and let us help you, and let us encourage and basically advise you where we would go. Last thing, and I know that we're running very close to time, but typically when people talk about pass rates, we're looking around 80%. It depends on your local authority. So again, it depends back at that school. Different schools have different pass rates. If you've got a very competitive school, you're looking at higher. If you've got maybe a school where there is less competition, it might be lower. So dependent on that school. So it all starts with knowing the school, knowing the exam board, contacting the school. As I've said, that's what we want you to do. If you are going to join us here on the 11 Plus Success Program, if you want to come in, that is what we're going to be asking you. We're going to be asking you, when you call up and you speak with me, I will be saying, what is your target school? Are you aware? What paper? Have you made sure that you've reached out to them?